The mining colony on Kepler 442b had never been considered important. It was a small settlement, 300 people extracting rare minerals from an asteroid field. Most of them were human. None of them were soldiers. When the Council peacekeeping fleet arrived in orbit, the colony administrator sent out a distress call to Earth. Una was in the processing center when the message came through her implant. She was an engineer, not a fighter. Her job was to maintain the excavation equipment and keep the life support systems running. But when she closed her eyes and focused on the feeling that had been growing stronger over the past 3 days, she understood something new. The entire colony was a weapon. She just had to know how to use it. The Council ships transmitted their demand. All humans were to surrender immediately for transport to containment facilities. This was for galactic security. This was necessary. Resistance would be met with force. Una walked to the colony's central hub and placed her hand on the control panel. Her implant connected instantly, diving deep into systems she'd maintained for 5 years but never truly understood until now. Power routing, gravity generators, mining lasers, defense grids that had been installed but never activated because the colony wasn't supposed to need them. Everything was already a weapon. It just needed someone to see it that way. The first Council shuttle entered the atmosphere. Una adjusted the gravity generators in grid section 7. The shuttle suddenly weighed 3 times what it should and had to abort landing. The second shuttle tried a different approach. Una redirected a mining laser, using the colony's own excavation tools to create a wall of superheated plasma in the sky. The shuttle retreated. She didn't destroy them. That wasn't the point. The point was to make them understand that humans didn't need warships or military installations. Give them a mining colony and they'd turn it into a fortress across the galaxy. Similar scenes were playing out. On the agricultural world of New Canaan, farmers used irrigation systems to flood landing zones and crop-dusting drones to create sensor-blocking clouds. On the research station orbiting Proxima Centauri, scientists rerouted particle accelerators into defensive emitters. On transport ships, on trading posts, on tiny outposts at the edge of explored space, humans were discovering what their awakened implants could do. They were learning to see the battlefield in everything. Commander Hune stood in Earth Defense Force headquarters, watching reports flood in from every human settlement. His own implant processed the information faster than any computer system EDF had used before. He could see patterns emerging, connections forming. Humanity wasn't just defending itself. Humanity was becoming something new. "Sir, we have confirmation," an officer reported. "The Council has deployed 17 fleets. They're calling it a containment operation, but we've intercepted their internal communications. It's an invasion force." Hyun nodded slowly. The Council had made their choice. Faced with humanity's unexpected evolution, they'd chosen fear over diplomacy. Now they would learn why that was a mistake. "Send the order," Hyun said. "All colonies, all stations, all ships. Defense Protocol 7. "Sir, we don't have a Defense Protocol 7. "We do now." The protocol spread through humanity's neural network in seconds. Every human with an implant suddenly knew exactly what to do. Not through commands or instructions, but through shared understanding. The collective consciousness that Sora had discovered wasn't just sharing information. It was sharing purpose. Hana escaped the tribunal station with Doyen's help, leaving behind evidence of the Council's conspiracy broadcast to every corner of the galaxy. The footage showed everything. The rigged arena, the suppressed research, the decades of lies. Some species believed it, others didn't. But all of them watched what happened next. The Council fleet reached Earth's outer colonies first. Admiral Sunwoo positioned the first fleet, not in attack formation but in a defensive perimeter. The Council commanders interpreted this as weakness. They were wrong. The first engagement lasted 17 minutes. Council ships opened fire on the colony of New Berlin. Their weapons systems failed halfway through the bombardment. Guidance computers rerouted missiles back toward their launch ships. Energy weapons overloaded and shut down. Communication arrays broadcast nothing but static. Admiral Sunwoo hadn't fired a single shot. He didn't need to. Every ship in his fleet had humans on board. Every human had an implant. Every implant could interface with nearby systems given the right conditions. And combat provided exactly the right conditions. The Council ships weren't destroyed. They were simply turned off, disabled, made harmless. Then human engineers went aboard and showed the Council crews exactly how it had been done. Your weapon systems have security protocols, a young ensign explained to a shocked council captain. We can read those protocols like you'd read a book. Your ship's computer speaks a language. We learned that language in the time it took for you to fire your first shot. You're not fighting soldiers anymore. You're fighting a species that can reprogram your weapons faster than you can use them. The news spread through the council fleets. Some continued fighting. Most surrendered. Ambassador Jaiho, freed from council custody, stood before what remained of the Galactic Assembly. Half the species had withdrawn in fear. The other half demanded answers. Humanity didn't choose this, Jaiho said calmly. You did. You set up an arena to humiliate us to prove we were weak. Instead, you activated capabilities we didn't even know we had. You wanted to see what humans could do in combat. Now you know. You're a threat, Vexthar hissed from his seat. The Council Prime looked smaller now, diminished. You must be contained. No, Jaiho replied. We must be understood. These implants, these abilities, they're not making us aggressive. They're making us capable. There's a difference, he gestured, and holographic displays filled the air showing data from across human space. Look at what's actually happening. Colonies aren't attacking their neighbors. Ships aren't raiding trade routes. Humans are defending themselves and then offering to teach others what they've learned. We're sharing this knowledge, not hoarding it. You say that now, another council member argued. But power corrupts. How long before humanity decides it should rule the galaxy? Hana's voice cut through the chamber, transmitted from the edge of the system. She'd infiltrated the Assembly's communication network without them noticing. We already answered that question. I walked into your arena empty-handed. I won without picking up a weapon. I defeated your champion using nothing but his own strength against him. That's the lesson you were supposed to learn. Her image appeared before the Assembly, projected from a hijacked communications array. Humans don't want to conquer you. We want to survive. We want to thrive. We want to be left alone to build and explore and grow. But if you force us to fight, you'll learn that we don't need your weapons or your ships or your technology. We'll use yours. The truth of it hung in the air. The Council's own military had been defeated using Council equipment. Human casualties were minimal because humans had fought smart, not hard. They'd turned every engagement into a technical problem to be solved rather than a battle to be won. Dr. Minho's research had confirmed what Sora discovered. The implants weren't making humans into warriors. They were making humans into problem solvers with combat applications. The distinction mattered. Yuna sat in her colony's control center watching as council ships withdrew from their space. Other humans sent her messages of thanks, of solidarity, of shared experience. They'd all felt the awakening. They'd all discovered what they could do, and they'd all chosen restraint when they could have chosen revenge. That was the real weapon, not the technology, not the abilities, but the choice to use them wisely. Commander Hyun looked at the reports and understood that something fundamental had changed. Earth hadn't just survived the Council's test. Earth had evolved past it. Humanity was no longer asking permission to exist in the galaxy. They were claiming their place through demonstrated capability, tempered with demonstrated restraint. Send a message to all human settlements, Hyun ordered. The crisis has passed. But remain vigilant, and most importantly, remain human. The implants give us power. We must give ourselves wisdom. The message spread through the network, through the collective consciousness that connected every awakened human. They felt it resonate with a truth they all understood. Power was easy to claim. Wisdom was hard to maintain. The real test wasn't surviving the Council's attack. The real test was what humanity would do now that they'd proven they couldn't be conquered. Hana watched the Assembly's proceedings from her hidden location and smiled. She'd walked into their arena empty-handed and changed the galaxy. Not through violence, but through demonstration, by showing that humans didn't need to be armed to be formidable, by proving that the most dangerous weapon wasn't the one you carried, but the one you could create from anything around you. The system whispered its agreement, spreading the protocol further. Earth had forged its own blades, and those blades were sharp enough to cut through fear itself. The medical bay smelled like antiseptic and ozone. Hana sat on the examination table while Dr. Minho ran his scanner over her ribs for the third time. The device beeped steadily, displaying information that made him frown deeper with each pass. 3 broken ribs, he said finally. Internal bruising. Minor concussion. You should be in severe pain right now. I am, Hana replied. But it was distant somehow, like the pain belonged to someone else. She could feel it, acknowledge it, but it didn't slow her down. Her mind felt sharp, focused. Too focused. Your neural readings are abnormal, Minho continued. He pulled up a holographic display showing brain activity. See these patterns? This isn't standard implant behavior. Your device should be passive right now, just handling basic communication and data access. Instead, it's actively processing at levels I've never seen outside of combat simulations. Hana touched the spot behind her ear where the implant had been installed 10 years ago. Everyone had them now. They were as common as smartphones had been in the previous century. The technology let humans interface with computers, access information instantly, and communicate across vast distances. Simple, useful, harmless. What does that mean? She asked. Before Minho could answer, the room's lighting flickered. Hana's vision changed. For just a second, she could see the electrical currents in the walls, the data flowing through the station's network, the structural weak points in the ceiling. Then it passed and everything looked normal again. Did you see that? Minho asked, checking his equipment. See what? The power fluctuation. The station's systems just hiccuped. He looked at Hana with sudden intensity. At the exact moment your neural activity spiked, the door slid open and a young woman rushed in, nearly colliding with a medical cart. Dr. Minho, you need to see this. She held up a data pad, her hands shaking slightly. I'm Sora, AI Research Division. I've been monitoring the station system since the arena incident. What incident? Minho asked. The one that's happening right now across the entire station? Sora's words came fast, excited and terrified at the same time. Every human on this station is showing the same neural anomalies. All 47 of them. Their implants are evolving. Hana stood up, ignoring the protest from her ribs. Evolving into what? Sora pulled up displays in the air between them. Lines of code scrolled past, too fast to read. Your implant learned something in that arena. It observed the station's systems, mapped the environmental controls, absorbed security protocols. Then it started rewriting itself to process that information more efficiently. That's not possible, Minho said. Neural implants don't have that kind of adaptive programming. They're not supposed to, Sora agreed. But human brains interface with technology differently than any other species in the galaxy. We don't just use systems. We absorb them, adapt to them, make them part of how we think. She gestured to new data. I've been going through classified council research files. They've known about this for decades. Hana felt another flicker in her vision. This time she focused on it instead of letting it pass. The medical-based systems laid themselves bare before her. She could see the power flow, the data streams, the security lockouts. More than that, she understood them. Her implant was translating machine language into human intuition. They knew? Hana asked quietly. Sora nodded. The council discovered it 30 years ago when humans first started using neural implants on a large scale. They suppressed the research, made it classified above top-secret level. They were afraid of what would happen if humans ever figured out what they could actually do with this technology. Which is what, exactly? Everything. Sora's voice dropped to a whisper. Think about it. Humans are tool users. We've always adapted our environment to suit our needs. But with neural implants, we can adapt the digital environment just as easily. We can see systems as extensions of our bodies, interface with them instinctively. Minho sat down heavily. The arena. The combat stress. It triggered something. It triggered everything, Sora corrected. Hana's brain was pushed to its limit trying to survive. Her implant responded by giving her every possible advantage. It hacked the arena systems without her even knowing she was doing it. It learned from the experience. And now that learning is spreading. Spreading how? Hana asked. Through the network. Human implants share data constantly, updating, syncing. One person learns something, and within hours, every connected human has access to that knowledge. It's collaborative evolution happening at digital speed. As if to prove her point, Hana felt a sudden rush of new information. She knew things she hadn't known moments ago. How to bypass station security. How to reroute power through damaged conduits. How to disable weapon systems with precise electromagnetic pulses. The knowledge came from nowhere and everywhere at once, like remembering something she'd always known. This is happening to all of us? Hana asked. Everyone with an implant, Sora confirmed. And it's accelerating. I've been monitoring reports from human colonies across the galaxy. People are reporting enhanced abilities. Engineers can interface with machines just by being near them. Pilots are flying ships with thought alone. Security personnel are predicting criminal behavior before it happens by reading digital footprints. Doyen appeared in the doorway, looking worried. We have a problem. The council just locked down all human quarters. They're calling an emergency session. They know, Hana said. Of course they know. Doyen stepped inside and let the door close. Station security has been monitoring everything. The council is terrified. They set up that arena match to prove humans were weak. Instead, they activated something they've been trying to keep dormant for 3 decades. Minho stood and moved to his research station, pulling up more data. I need to understand the limits of this. Can the implants be deactivated? Technically, yes, Sora said. But the integration is already deep. Deactivating them now would be like removing part of someone's brain. The implants aren't separate from us anymore. They're becoming us. Hana walked to the window and looked out at the station. Thousands of species, countless civilizations, all living together under council oversight. And now they were afraid. Afraid of what humans might become. What do they think we're going to do? She asked. What any species with overwhelming power would do, Doyen replied. Conquer, dominate, take what they want. Is that what we want? The room fell silent. It was the question that mattered most. Humanity now had access to capabilities beyond anything they'd possessed before. The implants weren't just tools anymore. They were weapons. The most dangerous kind because they couldn't be taken away. Sora broke the silence. I've been analyzing the code patterns in the evolved implants. There's something interesting. The primary directive that keeps appearing across all the adaptations isn't aggression or conquest. It's defense and optimization. The implants are making humans better at protecting themselves and solving problems. They're not writing attack protocols. They're writing survival protocols. The council won't see the difference, Doyen said. Then we need to make them see it, Hana replied. She turned from the window, her mind made up. They wanted to test humanity's combat capabilities. They got their answer. Now we show them what else we're capable of. Another flicker passed through her vision, but this time Hana embraced it fully. The station's systems opened up before her like a book. She could see every corridor, every security checkpoint, every locked door. More importantly, she could see the connections between them, the patterns, the possibilities. Her implant whispered information, showing her a path forward, not through violence, but through understanding, through adaptation. What are you planning? Minho asked, watching her expression change. Hana smiled. I'm going to walk into that council chamber and show them something they've never seen before. A human who doesn't need weapons because she can turn anything into a weapon. A human who doesn't need permission because she can interface with systems they thought were secure. A human who walked into their arena empty-handed and walked out victorious. They'll try to stop you, Doyen warned. Let them try. The whisper in her mind grew stronger, more confident. The implant was learning, adapting, preparing. And somewhere across the galaxy, millions of other humans were experiencing the same awakening. Earth hadn't forged blades of metal or energy. Earth had forged something far more dangerous. Earth had forged humans who could turn thought into action, who could make weapons from empty air and locked systems, who could walk through the galaxy empty-handed and never be helpless again. The system whispered its approval, and Hana listened. The shuttle doors hissed open, and Hana stepped onto the tribunal station with nothing but the clothes on her back. The security checkpoint gleamed under artificial lights, sterile and cold. She had been told this was routine procedure. All visitors surrendered their equipment upon arrival. Standard protocol for diplomatic facilities. She handed over her sidearm first, then the backup pistol from her ankle holster. The scanning officer, a thin creature with too many joints in its arms, gestured for more. Hana removed the knife from her belt, then the smaller blade hidden in her boot. The officer's translator clicked impatiently. She produced the emergency beacon from her jacket lining and the plasma cutter disguised as a pen. Is that everything? The officer asked. That's everything, Hana replied. The scanner passed over her body 3 more times before they let her through. She walked into the station completely unarmed for the first time in 8 years. It felt wrong, like missing a limb, but Ambassador Jiho had been clear in his instructions. This was a diplomatic mission. Earth needed to prove it could follow galactic protocols, so she followed them. The station stretched out before her, a massive ring spinning slowly to create artificial gravity. Thousands of species moved through the corridors, going about their business. Hana had seen the galaxy's diversity before, but never this concentrated. Beings with scales, with fur, with crystalline skin that reflected light in rainbow patterns. Some walked on 2 legs, others on 4 or 6 or none at all, floating through the air on fields of energy. A security officer approached her. He looked almost human, but his eyes were too large and completely black. "Specialist Hana?" he asked. "That's me. I'm Doyen. I'll be your escort. The council is ready for you." Hana followed him through winding corridors. Something felt off. The other security personnel they passed kept staring at her. Not with curiosity, but with something else. Pity, maybe? Or anticipation. "What exactly am I here for?" Hana asked. The briefing was vague. Doyen's pace slowed slightly. "You don't know?" "Know what?" He stopped walking and turned to face her. For a moment, he seemed to struggle with something. Then his professional mask slipped back into place. "The Council wants to evaluate humanity's combat capabilities. It's part of the application process for advanced technology licenses." "A combat evaluation?" Hana frowned. "Like a simulation? Training exercises?" Doyen's expression darkened. "Not exactly." They entered a massive chamber that made Hana's stomach drop. It was an arena, a genuine fighting pit with tiered seating rising up on all sides. Thousands of aliens filled the seats, watching, waiting. The floor of the arena was 50 meters across, littered with debris and broken equipment. Scorch marks scarred the walls. Council Prime Vexthar stood on a raised platform, his insectoid body gleaming under the lights. His translator boomed across the arena. "Humanity seeks to join the advanced species of this galaxy. You ask for access to weapons, to shields, to the technologies that protect civilized worlds. But first you must prove your worth." Hana's hands clenched into fists. "This is a setup. A trial by combat," Vexthar continued. "Face our champion. Survive, and Earth's application will be considered. Fail, and humanity will be deemed unworthy for another century." A door opened on the opposite side of the arena. What emerged made several species in the audience gasp with excitement. The Ragoth champion stood 12 feet tall, covered in armored plates that looked harder than steel. 4 arms ending in claws that could shred metal, a tail with a blade at the tip. Its mouth opened to reveal rows of teeth designed for tearing flesh. The creature had never lost a fight. Hana knew this because the information suddenly appeared on screens around the arena. 43 victories. 43 species had sent their champions. All had fallen. "This is murder," Hana said quietly. Doyen stood beside her at the arena's edge. "I'm sorry. Most of us didn't know until it was arranged. The Council planned this in secret. Can I refuse? They'll take it as humanity's surrender. Earth will be blacklisted from all advanced technology trades. No weapons. No shields. No medical tech, nothing." Hana looked at the champion, then at the crowd, then at Vexthar's satisfied expression. They had stripped her of weapons, thrown her into an arena, and given her no choice. This was meant to be a message. Humanity was weak. Humanity was prey. She stepped into the arena, the crowd roared. The Ragoth champion charged immediately, covering the distance with terrifying speed. Hana rolled to the side as claws tore through the space where she'd stood. She came up running, scanning the arena as she moved. Broken metal poles. Chunks of concrete. A damaged gravity plate sparking in the corner. The champion turned and charged again. This time Hana didn't dodge. She grabbed a metal pole and jammed it into the floor at an angle. The champion's armored chest hit the pole, and the impact bent the metal but also stopped the creature's momentum. Hana was already moving, circling behind, grabbing a chunk of concrete. She threw it at the sparking gravity plate. The explosion wasn't large, but it disrupted the arena's artificial gravity in that section. The champion stumbled, suddenly weighing half what it should. Hana used those 3 seconds to grab another pole and drive it into the joint between the creature's armor plates on its lower leg. The champion roared and swung all 4 arms. One caught Hana across the ribs and sent her flying. She hit the ground hard, tasted blood. Broken rib, maybe 2. She forced herself up. The creature pulled the pole from its leg, green blood dripping. It was limping now. Good. They circled each other. Hana's mind raced through possibilities. She couldn't overpower it. Couldn't outrun it for long. Had to think. Had to use everything available. The arena itself was a weapon. She noticed the scorch marks on the walls formed a pattern. Energy shields had been used here before, containment fields to protect the audience. That meant there were emitters built into the structure. The champion charged again. Hana ran straight at it this time, sliding under its legs at the last second. Her hand found a maintenance panel on the floor and ripped it open. Wires and circuits. She grabbed 2 power cables and yanked them free. The lights in that section of the arena flickered. Emergency systems kicked in, and suddenly a containment field snapped into existence right where the champion was standing. The creature slammed into the invisible wall of energy and recoiled. Hana didn't hesitate. She found another maintenance panel, rerouted more power. The containment field grew stronger, compressing, forcing the champion into a smaller and smaller space. The creature thrashed and roared but couldn't break through. In the stands, species began to murmur in confusion. This wasn't how arena combat worked. This wasn't honorable. Hana didn't care about honor. She cared about survival. She found the gravity controls and reversed them over the containment field. The champion suddenly weighed 3 times normal. Its armored legs buckled. The pressure increased. Something in the creature's armor cracked. Then Hana released everything at once. The champion collapsed. Unconscious from the strain, the arena fell silent. Hana stood in the center of the pit, bleeding and breathing hard, surrounded by sparking equipment and exposed wiring. She had walked in empty-handed and had won using nothing but the arena itself. Something strange happened then. A whisper in the back of her mind, like static clearing to reveal a signal. Her neural implant, standard for all modern humans, suddenly felt different. Awake. Active. It was mapping the arena, calculating trajectories, learning from what she had just done. Vexthar's voice finally broke the silence. The human is victorious. Hana looked up at the Council Prime, then at the thousands of watching aliens. She smiled through bloody teeth. Earth doesn't need your weapons, she said. We make our own. Ambassador Jiho woke in darkness. His hands were bound behind his back with restraints that pulsed with a faint electric current, just enough to keep his muscles weak. He'd been taken from his diplomatic quarters 3 days ago. Or was it 4? Time had become difficult to track. The door opened and light flooded in. Council Enforcer Thane entered, his reptilian scales catching the harsh illumination. He was massive, over 7 feet tall, with claws that could tear through ship hulls. The Council had sent their best interrogator. Tell me about the human implants, Thane said. His voice was surprisingly soft, almost gentle. That made him more dangerous, not less. I've told you everything I know, Jiho replied. His throat was dry. They gave him water, just enough to keep him alive. Then tell me again. Thane asked the same questions he'd asked every day. How did the implants work? How could they be deactivated? What were humanity's military capabilities? Where were the key command nodes? Jiho gave the same answers. The truth mostly because lies would be detected, but the truth carefully shaped to give no useful intelligence. What Thane didn't know was that Jiho's implant had done something unexpected when they'd tried to suppress it. Instead of shutting down, it had encrypted his memories. Now when Jiho tried to recall sensitive information, he found blank spaces where thoughts should be. His own mind was protecting secrets he didn't even know he was keeping. The evolution continued. On the derelict station at the edge of the Vega system, Hana moved through abandoned corridors like a ghost. Thane had been hunting her for 2 weeks, following the trail she deliberately left. Now he'd finally caught up. She heard him before she saw him. His claws scraped against metal floors, confident and steady. He wasn't worried. He should be. I know you're here, human, Thane called out. The Council will show mercy if you surrender. Humanity doesn't need to be destroyed, just controlled. Hana stepped into view at the far end of the corridor. Empty-handed, unarmed, waiting. Thane charged. He covered the distance in seconds, faster than most species could track. But Hana's implant was already processing his movement patterns, predicting trajectories, calculating counters. She moved a heartbeat before he reached her, stepping to the side in a way that put his momentum against him. His claws tore through the wall where she'd been standing. Hana was already behind him, her hand finding a loose power cable dangling from damaged ceiling panels. She grabbed it and touched it to the metal floor. Electricity arced through the corridor. Thane's armor, designed to withstand energy weapons, conducted the current perfectly. He stumbled, muscles spasming. Hana didn't wait. She ran deeper into the station, her implant mapping escape routes, finding weaknesses in structure, identifying anything that could be weaponized. Thane recovered faster than she'd expected. He was experienced, trained, enhanced with combat augments. He knew how to fight enemies with technology. but he didn't know how to fight someone who could turn the environment itself into a weapon. They fought through 3 sections of the station. Each engagement lasted seconds. Each time Hana used what was around her. Explosive decompression by breaching a hull plate. Gravity manipulation by overloading floor generators. Chemical fires started by mixing cleaning supplies stored in maintenance closets. And between each encounter, something strange happened. Hana's implant evolved again. It wasn't just reacting anymore. It was predicting. She began to see Thane's attacks before he made them, reading the microsecond muscle tensions that preceded movement. Her own responses became faster, more efficient. She was learning from him, learning how apex predators fought, and that knowledge was already spreading through the network to every other human. Dr. Minho sat in his laboratory, watching the data streams in horror and fascination. The collective consciousness was growing stronger by the hour. Every human was contributing knowledge, and every human was receiving it back refined and improved. They were becoming something unprecedented, a species that learned collectively in real time. "We need to find the limits," he said to his assistant. "This can't be infinite. There has to be a breaking point." "What kind of breaking point?" the assistant asked. "The kind where we lose ourselves, where individual consciousness dissolves into the collective." Minho pulled up brain scan comparisons. "Look at these patterns. Neural activity is synchronizing across subjects separated by light years. They're starting to think in harmony. That's beautiful and terrifying at the same time." The question nobody wanted to ask was becoming urgent. At what point did humanity stop being individual humans and become something else entirely? Admiral Sunwoo watched the Council's main fleet assemble at the border of human space. This wasn't a containment force anymore. This was everything the Council had. Thousands of ships from dozens of species, all united by one purpose: stop humanity's evolution by any means necessary. "They're going to use biological weapons," his intelligence officer reported. "We've intercepted their research. They've developed a virus that targets neural implants specifically. It won't kill us, but it will deactivate the implants permanently." "Can they deploy it?" Sunwoo asked. "If they get close enough. The virus requires physical contact or extremely close proximity. They'll have to breach our defenses first." Sunwoo studied the tactical display. The Council fleet was massive, but it was also predictable. Traditional military thinking. Overwhelming force concentrated in one location. They were trying to fight humanity the way they'd fight any other species. That was their mistake. "Send the order," Sunwoo said. "All ships scatter formation. No concentrations larger than 3 vessels. Make them chase us across 1,000 different systems." His officers looked confused. "Sir, that's the opposite of proper defensive strategy. Proper strategy assumes we need to mass our forces to match theirs. We don't. Every single one of our ships can disable multiple enemy vessels without firing a shot. We're not trying to win a battle. We're trying to prove the battle is pointless." The First Fleet dispersed. The Council forces followed, splitting their massive armada to chase down individual human ships. And everywhere they went, the same thing happened. Council vessels would catch up to their target, prepare to engage, and then their systems would fail. Not catastrophically. Just enough to leave them drifting, helpless, watching as the human ship jumped away untouched. It was humiliating. It was deliberate. Commander Hyun had proposed the strategy himself. "Don't fight them," he'd said. "Teach them. Show them that chasing us is futile. Make them understand that we can always run, and when we run, we can always take their toys away." The galaxy watched the pursuit with growing disbelief. The mighty Council fleet, representing civilizations millions of years old, couldn't catch humans who'd only reached space a few centuries ago. More than that, they couldn't even keep their own ships functioning in human presence. Some Council species began to question the operation. Was humanity really the threat? Or had the Council's fear turned a defensive species into an enemy that didn't need to exist? Back on the derelict station, Hana's fight with Thane reached its conclusion. She'd led him into the station's central reactor chamber, a massive space filled with conduits and machinery. The reactor was dead, but its systems were still connected to the station's network. Thane cornered her against a control panel, breathing hard. He'd taken damage from their running battle. Burns, electrical shocks. One of his arms hung useless from a dislocated shoulder. But he was still deadly, still capable of killing her with his remaining claws. "Enough," he growled. "I don't want to kill you, surrender." Hana placed her hand on the control panel behind her. Her implant dove into the station's systems one final time. "You can't kill me," she said quietly. "Because I'm not here anymore." Her consciousness spread through the station's network like water through cracks. She was in the life support systems, in the gravity generators, in the emergency bulkheads. She was everywhere and nowhere, digital and physical at once. Thane lunged. Hana's body moved with inhuman precision, guided by processing power that extended beyond her own brain. She wasn't just reacting to him. She was reacting to the entire environment, seeing possibilities and pathways that no individual mind could track. The fight ended when Hana simply walked away, leaving Thane trapped behind emergency bulkheads that sealed at her thought. She was outside the chamber before he could process what had happened. "I could collapse this section," Hana said through the station's communication system. "Trap you here until your air runs out. But I won't, because that's not who we are." She left him a functioning communicator and coordinates to the nearest council outpost. Then she was gone, stealing his ship because she'd already interfaced with its systems and convinced them she was the rightful pilot. Thane sat in the sealed chamber and tried to understand what had just happened. He'd fought hundreds of species. He'd studied thousands of combat techniques. Nothing prepared him for an enemy who could be everywhere, use everything, and still choose mercy. The biological weapon never deployed. Council Prime Vexthar gave the order, but the ships carrying the virus experienced simultaneous system failures. Their containment units opened prematurely. The virus spread through the Council ships instead, deactivating their own neural augments, their own combat enhancements. It was sabotage, obviously, but nobody could. Hana stood at the border of Council space, exactly where they'd told her not to go. The message had been clear. If she crossed that line, it would be considered an act of war. But war had already come. It had ended with humanity victorious, and now came the harder part. The aftermath. She crossed the border empty-handed. No weapons, no ship, just herself in a small shuttle that had barely enough fuel to make the journey. The Council scanners detected her immediately. Alarms screamed through their security networks. The human was coming. Admiral Sunwoo had tried to stop her. "This is suicide," he'd said. "They'll kill you the moment you arrive." "They'll try," Hana had replied. "That's the point. Commander Hyun understood what she was doing, even if he didn't like it. You're making yourself the target, drawing all their fear and anger to one place." "Someone has to," Hana said. "And I'm the one who started this by winning their arena match. I should be the one to finish it." The Council sent 12 interceptor ships to stop her shuttle. Hana let them catch her. Let them board. Let them take her into custody. She walked through their ship surrounded by armed guards, all of them pointing weapons at her head. She could have disabled every weapon with a thought, could have turned their own ship against them. Instead, she kept her hands visible and empty. "Take me to Vexthar," she said. They did because they didn't know what else to do with her. The Council Prime waited in a chamber designed for executions. Heavy security, energy fields, weapons platforms tracking Hana's every movement. Vexthar looked older than he had at the arena. The failed invasion had cost him politically. Several species had withdrawn from the Council entirely. Others demanded his resignation. "You came alone," Vexthar said. "Either you're incredibly brave or incredibly foolish." "Neither," Hana replied. "I came to prove a point. That humans cannot be stopped. That humans don't need to be stopped." Vexthar's mandibles clicked in what might have been laughter or scorn. "You're sitting in my execution chamber. I could kill you right now. You could try." The first assassination attempt came from above. A Council assassin, species unknown, dropped from a hidden panel in the ceiling. Blade drawn, moving faster than most beings could see. Hana's implant processed the attack in the microseconds before it reached her. She stepped aside, grabbed the assassin's wrist, and used their own momentum to send them crashing into a weapons platform. The platform exploded from the impact. Hana remained standing, still unarmed, still empty-handed. The second attempt came from the guards. 3 of them opened fire simultaneously, believing overwhelming firepower would overcome her abilities. Their weapons malfunctioned mid-shot. Energy weapons overloaded and melted their barrels. Projectile weapons jammed. One guard's weapon exploded in his hands, though Hana had carefully ensured the explosion was just large enough to destroy the weapon without injuring its user. She stood in the center of the chamber, surrounded by disabled enemies and broken equipment, and smiled. "You see?" she said to Vexthar. "I didn't bring weapons. I don't need them. You brought weapons and they don't work against me. This is what you're afraid of, not that humans will attack you, but that you can't hurt us even if you try. Vexthar's eyes narrowed. What do you want? To offer you a choice. Sora's research had given them the answer weeks ago. The awakening wasn't permanent unless humans chose to keep it. The implants could be reset, depowered, returned to their original passive state. Humanity could give up everything they'd gained. Go back to being just another species struggling to survive in a galaxy that didn't care, but they could also share it. Your fear is understandable, Hana continued. A new species develops capabilities you can't counter. Of course you're scared, but fear makes you stupid. You tried to contain us. You tried to control us. You tried to kill us. Nothing worked. So now I'm offering you something you're not expecting. Partnership. You want to join the council? Vexthar asked skeptically. I want to teach you what we learned. The implants don't just work for humans. The underlying technology, the way consciousness interfaces with systems, it's not species-specific. It just needs the right conditions to activate. Commander Hyun had been horrified when Hana first proposed the idea. You want to give them the same abilities we have? That's insane. They'll use it against us. They'll try, Hana had agreed. And they'll fail, because we learned something in that arena. In every fight since then, it's not about who has the stronger weapon. It's about who's willing to not use it. Yuna had understood immediately. You want to prove that the awakening doesn't make species aggressive, that it's a tool like any other, and tools can be used for building just as easily as destroying. Now standing in Vexthar's execution chamber, Hana presented her case. Give me volunteers from any species. I'll teach them what humans learned. How to interface with systems. How to see the battlefield in everything. How to turn thought into action. And then you'll see that we're not unique. We're just early. And if they use that knowledge to attack humanity, then they'll learn the same lesson you did. That attacking humans is a waste of time and resources. We can always defend ourselves. We can always run. We can always take away your advantages. Fighting us accomplishes nothing. Another assassination attempt interrupted them. This one came from outside the chamber. A missile fired from a distant ship. It should have been impossible to detect at this range. Should have punched through the station shields and detonated in the chamber. Instead, it veered off course mid-flight and exploded harmlessly in space. Hana hadn't moved. Hadn't even acknowledged the threat. Her implant had detected it, calculated its trajectory, and sent a signal to the missile's own guidance system. The weapon had defeated itself. Vexthar watched this happen on his monitors. You didn't even try that time. I don't need to try. The systems do it for me now. That's what you don't understand. The awakening isn't about making humans into warriors. It's about making humans into something that doesn't need to fight. Dr. Minho's latest research had confirmed the theory. The collective consciousness wasn't just sharing combat knowledge. It was sharing philosophical knowledge, tactical knowledge, problem-solving approaches that avoided conflict entirely. Humanity was evolving past violence even as they became capable of unprecedented violence. The doctrine of empty hands, Hana said, pulling up documents on a holographic display. Commander Hyun wrote it. Humanity's new approach to galactic relations. We will defend when attacked. We will never initiate. We will disarm enemies without destroying them. We will show strength through restraint. Vexthar read the document in silence. It outlined everything humanity had learned and everything they chose to do with that knowledge. The doctrine made one thing absolutely clear. Humanity could have conquered the galaxy. They chose not to, and that choice was more powerful than any weapon. You're asking me to trust you, Vexthar said finally. I'm asking you to trust yourself. If you accept our offer, your own species will gain the same abilities. You'll be able to verify everything we say. You'll know with absolute certainty whether humans are a threat or not. It was a gamble. Giving other species the awakening meant giving them equal footing. But Hana had realized something during her fight with Thane. The awakening didn't make beings aggressive. It made them capable. What they did with that capability depended entirely on who they were before they awakened. Vexthar was silent for a long time. The chamber's weapons platforms remained trained on Hana, even though everyone present knew they were useless. Finally, the Council Prime spoke. I accept your offer, but on one condition. What condition? You stay here, in Council space. Not as a prisoner, but as a teacher and ambassador. Show us that humans can live among us without dominating us. Hana considered this. It meant leaving Earth, leaving her people, living among species that had recently tried to kill her. It meant being vulnerable in a way that went beyond physical danger. But it also meant proving humanity's point every single day, that empty hands were stronger than weapons. That restraint was more powerful than conquest. I accept, she said. The news spread through both human and council networks simultaneously. Humanity would share the awakening. The council would accept human teachers. The galaxy was about to change in ways nobody could predict. Ambassador Jiho immediately began drafting formal agreements. Admiral Sunwoo repositioned his fleets into purely defensive formations, making it clear humanity had no intention of expanding territory. Yuna started preparing educational materials, ways to teach other species what humans had learned through desperate necessity. And Hana walked through council space empty-handed, proving every day that she could. Guards followed her at first, waiting for her to become violent to show humanity's true nature. She never did. Instead, she taught. She demonstrated. She showed them that the implants weren't weapons unless you chose to use them that way. The first non-human species to successfully awaken was a peaceful trading civilization. They used their new abilities to optimize shipping routes and improve their merchant fleet efficiency. The second was a warrior culture. They used the awakening to develop non-lethal combat techniques that ended disputes without casualties. Each species found different applications. Each proved that the technology itself was neutral.